Today, I'm attempting to code optical illusions in 1 minute, then 10 minutes, and finally 1 hour. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as I hopefully blow your minds by attempting this challenge. Let's get started. For the 1 minute illusion, since I'm on a time crunch, I'm going for a relatively simple illusion called the Herman grid. This is a static illusion that many of you have probably seen before, where a bunch of black squares are uniformly rendered in a grid. When the full grid is complete, you should start to see gray dots appearing between the cubes. To code this illusion, I think it's pretty straightforward. I'm starting by creating the canvas in which the cubes will actually be rendered on top of. Then, I'll set some constants that define the positioning and size of the cubes. This will ensure all the cubes are spaced out uniformly. Finally, I'll render a 20 by 20 grid of cubes with 2 nested loops, rendering a black square on each iteration using the constants we defined above. Each square should be 60 pixels in width and 12 pixels apart. 5 seconds left, and I think we've just barely finished. And that should be the 1 minute illusion done. Let's see how it turned out. I think that's decent for 1 minute. Can you guys see gray dots in between the corners of the squares? It's pretty simple and static, but I didn't really expect more from just a single minute. Let's move on to something more dynamic with the 10-minute illusion. "10 minutes is still not a lot of time, but I think we can definitely go for something more advanced. My idea for this optical illusion is the lilac chaser, which is a dynamic illusion that tricks your brain into seeing a moving green dot. I'm starting by setting up the canvas and basic styles of the page. The illusion features 12 pink dots in a circular formation, where one dot constantly disappears and then reappears in sequential order. When the user focuses on the cross in the center of the dots, they should be tricked into seeing a green dot that's not actually there. I'm first going to render the cross and the hint that tells the user to focus on the cross in the center of the page. Once this is working, we can look at rendering the pink dots next. Okay, I think that looks fine. Now we need to actually render the pink dots. We'll space the 12 pink dots evenly apart from each other in a circular formation, using trigonometry to calculate the angles that can then be used to calculate the x and y positions of each dot. To actually draw each dot, we'll draw a small circle and fill it in with pink. We're cutting it close, but if this works, we should have the pink dots at least statically rendered for now. Okay, nice. Now we have like 2 minutes left to set the interval that properly disappears and reappears the dots in the correct order. For each frame, we essentially just loop through the dot indices and disappear the dot at the current index by not drawing it at all. We do this in a circular fashion, where index 11 loops back to index 0, giving us the correct timing and dot that we want to disappear in each frame. And that's 10 minutes up. When you stare at the cross, do you see the green dot? I think it's working as I expected it to. The timing could have been slightly faster, but when I stare at the cross, I do still see the green dot, meaning it works, at least for me. So the first two turned out pretty well. But now it's time to move on to the final challenge, the 1 hour optical illusion. One hour is quite a long time, so I'm not as worried about the time constraint for this one. I want to go for something a bit different. The illusion will still be dynamic. However, I want to create one of those illusions where, if you stare at it for a while, everything starts moving even after you look away from the screen. I saw an illusion like this a long time ago, where there are these diamond rings moving outward and inwards in opposite directions. So, for this challenge, I'm trying to recreate that idea, starting with the background, which captures the outward moving rings. The first step is to render the big diamond rings that move outwards. For each frame, I'm essentially just increasing the radius of many black diamonds and overlaying them on top of each other to create the ring effect. I think that looks pretty good, but this has already eaten up half of our time. Time to get started on the rings moving inward. On top of this background, we'll have a sphere that features the same rings moving in the opposite direction. First, we need to create the spherical area in which these opposite rings can actually be rendered. So I'll start by drawing the spherical area in the center of the canvas and adjust the size as needed. I think the size of the spherical area is fine, but we don't actually need to see the outline, so I'll keep it thin. Similar to the 10-minute illusion, the effect works best if there's a focus point for the user to look at. The focus point for this one will be a big red dot in the center of the illusion. For some reason, the dot isn't showing up. I need to do a bit of debugging to figure out why. Okay, there we go. The red dot in the center of the illusion is now visible. We have about 12 minutes left to add the rings moving inwards. This shouldn't actually be too difficult, since it's essentially the same as the background, just moving in the opposite direction, and only within the spherical region in the center of the canvas. That's not good. Now, all the rings are just moving inwards. A little more debugging and nice! It looks like it's working. And with 5 minutes to spare, which I can spend adjusting the speed and size parameters, let's see how the final result turns out. So this is the final 1-hour illusion. Try it out by staring at the red dot for 30 seconds and then looking away from the screen. I'll tell you when 30 seconds is up. Okay, it's been roughly 30 seconds. Is everything moving? Because it sure is for me. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more like this, be sure to subscribe. I have some pretty cool stuff planned that you won't want to miss. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.